Hey guys, you're listening to Alex Callan on The Faction. Today I've got Rob Brens on the line from Gippsland-based band Mirrors. How's it going, Rob?
Not too bad, man. How about yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm based in Victoria. I'm just down in Melbourne, Geelong area, but it's kind of not often that I introduce a band from the Gippslands, to be honest. I suppose, how did you guys first kind of get into metal and start the band?
Okay, so I'm from Melbourne, but I'm the only Melbourne born guy. But the whole band itself was like or did originate in Gippsland,
Mhm.
where the other three still are. So and I sort of it's from my understanding, it was sort of a fairly organic sort of just four guys kind of getting together kind of thing. But my involvement came through just a mutual acquaintance. Just being like, essentially just being like, hey, yeah, I know a guy, and it sort of started as like a gun for hire kind of thing because so I do a lot of that sort of stuff, and then it just continued on from there. It was sort of like they didn't want me to go and I didn't want to leave, and now we're a band. So yeah,
So how long have you been involved in Mirrors for now, Rob?
so I want to say around 4 years.
Yeah,
It's
right.
yeah, sort of yeah, potentially 4 to 5. It's hard to tell because especially over the past 2 years, which kind of just disappeared.
Yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, I think about yeah thereabouts 4 to 5.
So, for most of the band's career, kind of thing, you've been involved.
Probably about this point. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah,
for
sort of
sure.
basically when they dropped their the first single after their EP Circus, that was pretty much bang on with that. The release of that was so yeah, for a bit of context.
And now, now you guys are dropping your debut album.
Mm,
Congratulations! But the ego's way.
thank you.
That's awesome, man. So, am I right in saying that was meant to come out early October, but has it been pushed back a little bit?
Yeah, so that was just it was just a hold up with the vinyl, which is a pretty common thing these days.
Yeah.
There was sort of like an option to like we can release the digital and then we could do the vinyl later and all that kind of stuff. It's just like we sort of thought about it, like no, we want it to be experienced the way it was intended to be experienced, not sort of drip feeding everyone bits and pieces. So yeah, it was really just just the COVID logistical holdups that pretty much everyone's been experiencing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
make it hard.
but we've got it. We've got it though. We've got pictures of the vinyl in everyone's hand, in hands to be distributed. So that's it's happening.
And it must be so exciting. I mean, after, as you said, 4 or 5 years kind of dropping that debut album. So I suppose when you look at the ego's weight, how are you kind of feeling about the songs? Does it feel like an accumulation of the last 5 years and all the songs you guys have done? Or was it a very thematic release that you had something specific in mind?
No, I don't think there's ever anything in mind. I mean, it's definitely the accumulation of the work, that everyone is putting in constantly. There's and I think it's really just that there's never like we want to go in this direction. It's just like we like what we like. So and we're not sort of really concerned about like well, if people are going to like this or we don't know. Yeah, it kind of just is what it is. I mean, even the first two singles that have sort of come out are like very contrasting, and I think even that kind of hopefully gives a bit of an idea of how diverse the album is, because it is extremely diverse, beyond what we've put out so far. And I think that speaks a lot to the interests that everyone has musically. So I think it's just more and more just trying to, because it's very like the older stuff is very just like, yes, that is a metalcore band kind of thing, and now it's just kind of like it just sort of is what it is. So but yeah, we were wrapping up recording roughly this time last year. So it's so yeah, we're still very happy with the songs though, and
Yeah,
how they
absolutely.
sit.
As you should be. I mean, the Ego's Way is an epic album. And as you
Mm.
said, it is quite diverse and eclectic, where, yeah, in a sense, it feels like a 20-year snapshot of metalcore, that some songs feel so progressive and new, other songs feel kind of nostalgic and, remind me of certain stuff from 2010. And it's kind of cool to hear. Yeah, I don't know. As I said, I feel like it really just aces metalcore in a sense.
That's it. That's actually a really cool take because like there's definitely tunes or even just moments on there where it's just like where maybe there's one of those moments where we just go like it's like oh, are we still doing this? But it's just like yeah, but let's it's still cool. Like let's still do it. Let's not who gives a shit if it's like oh yeah a breakdown or whatever. Like it's like, nah, it slaps, so we're going to do it. And that's kind of like the only really metric. It's just like, there's some, if you've heard it, like there's some very, very subtle ballady kind of things on there and some, sort of, I don't know, weird alternative kind of things on there and extremely brutally, bordering on death metal, sounding kind of stuff on there as well. So it's just that metric of just creating, good music. And I think that's kind of what keeps it, is kind of made it so diverse in that way, where it's like, well, this is just a body of work that's that's a snapshot of that time. But yeah, I think that's probably how you kind of get that kind of like you're sort of saying, like this kind of overarching snapshot of metalcore, if you want to call it that.
Absolutely, because it does kind of balance between, as you said, like it has certain moments that are probably more so leaning towards death metal and certain brutal breakdowns and certain beats and feels on your behalf as a drummer, Rob. I mean, there's some really brutal moments, but then some quite accessible choruses. And it's you've been to the show, everyone's been to a metalcore show where you're singing your heart out at the chorus and then some dude crowd surfing lands on your neck. And I feel like in a sense that's the ego's weight. It's like every bit that shows you a bit of lightness, it's like, no, we're going to take that out and drop it again.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think, and for me personally, like that, I think that just comes from like the background of like, I was playing in a death metal band at the same time as when I started working with Mirrors. So if I hear something like that, it's like, well, yeah, I'm definitely going to go, in that direction. And and also coupled with, not just the guys in the band, but working with, Lance Prince and Scotty Simpson, they're both like, totally open to, just those sort of experimental kind of things and going in different directions where it's just like, this is a heavy bit. Like, it's not like, oh yeah, but this might be a bit much for the metalcore crowd. It's just like, no, this is what we're doing. And, we're just going to, lean into that direction. So I think everyone was just working hard to sort of just expand the, the palette, so to speak, like that, just those dynamics, like leading into it. And
it's being released by Resist as well, which is an incredible feat. Congratulations on that. Like, honestly, Matt, I'm so stoked. Any time a band signs to Resist, I get proud without having any actual entitlement to be proud. It's like just such a homegrown label. I'm always so G'd about it. So how did you guys feel getting signed to Resist?
That was ridiculous. Like, it was, it was just one of those things where, like, we've got the album, and as you do, you want to send it around, and it was almost like a bit of a laugh where we're just like, let's just, probably won't hear anything back, but we'll send it to these guys, and then it was just like, this is awesome, let's talk. I'm like, oh, it was like, way, we weren't expecting that. So, but at the same time, upon actually, like having a meeting and having a chat and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just like, yeah, I think this is, a good fit for us. And I think, when you sort of stop to think about how hard we've been working on this kind of stuff, like, the band hasn't been around for a huge amount of time, but I feel like the amount of work that we've put in and continue to put in, I think it's like, well, you work hard enough. These are the things that happen. So there is that kind of there is that element as well, where it's like, we feel very fortunate, to be a part of that as well. But there's that other thing where you go, yeah, no, well, we did actually work really, really goddamn hard to actually, to try and make something like this happen. So I think it's vindicating. I think that's probably the word I'm kind of looking for, where it's just like, because when you're sort of working in that bubble of being a band, I mean, you have to derive your own satisfaction out of it all, because if you rely on getting it from, validation from everyone else, then you're just going to have a really shit time. But at the same time, when you're sort of not sure about, when you're just kind of like, well, is this actually any good? And then, if you get opportunities like that come up, it's like, okay, well, cool. I think we're doing something right.
Absolutely. And,
Mm.
it is something so many bands go through it in a sense where,
Mm.
like you'll be in a room with a bunch of other people that you're touring with, and you just kind of like not even comparing yourself. You're just kind of thinking,
Mm.
fuck, everyone's so talented kind of thing. And some people,
Mm.
really do struggle with that mindset of, do we belong here kind of thing. And as you said, it's so cool to be picked up by Resist, and it's evident,
Yeah.
that kind of solidification of the hard work that you guys have been doing, which is really, really
Mm.
rad. But as you said,
Yeah.
it was recorded early last year.
Hmm.
Surely you guys have been working on some new songs within the year since.
Yeah, we have, and we got so yeah. We probably hang on. I see. I don't even know what time of year it is. So yeah, so I think so. I could only remember because I was moving house at the time. So it was like the start of December last year, roughly, was when I finished recording drums. So, and we started mixing in December of last year. And so yeah, sort of there was obviously like a bit of a breather, but we're just like. We're always kind of just left with like, could we have done this better? Could we have, as with anything, it's like, well, it's always going to happen no matter what. But with just all those things of like, could have done this, could have done that. So we kind of want to take as much of that out of the equation as possible for the next one. So we're just writing as much as possible, and hopefully do what essentially what Tyson did, which is essentially write like an EP's worth of stuff before the album, and then just binning it. So because it's kind of like getting the next release and all the growth that kind of comes with it, is kind of getting it just like out of the way and just moving straight on to the next material. So yeah, so we're just trying to amass as much material as possible and explore as much stuff as we can, and so that way, by the time we are ready to record another album, we have a very, very strong, the strongest possible body of work. We're not trying to cram anything in. We're not like, geez, we better get this out. Let's just wrap this song up. That's good enough. Like we want to avoid that and sort of go in there at the very least knowing that like. Even if we look back on it down the track, we're not saying, we can say to ourselves, we did absolutely the best we could, at the time. But
Definitely.
I think this is what every band does that anyway.
Yeah. I feel like it opens up so many doors in a sense. And,
Yeah.
it is really cool to actually, as you said, Rob, explore all those different avenues and see what works, because, sometimes it can be the most minor thing where you use 1 second of a minute long idea kind of thing, but it's that 1 second that really tweaks the song. So,
100%.
yeah, exploring those avenues is really cool. Is there anything, I suppose, you guys in this writing process that you've explored that really surprised you?
As in, for the previous album or for what we're doing now?
Yeah, well, like where you guys are just in the studio and you're like, I didn't ever really imagine I'd be playing like this kind of beat with a metalcore band.
I definitely get surprised because like I'm always like me personally, like I'm always, trying to bring just non-typical things to the table, and quite deliberately so, just because, I just sort of want to, I just don't want things to sort of sound like the same stuff, the same, tropes that, the things that you can hear them coming, so I'm trying to avoid that stuff all the time, or integrate disciplines, integrate ideas from other disciplines. So I actually found myself quite surprised at the amount of stuff that was sort of getting through. I'll be like, where I'm like, I'll put something forward and I'm just thinking that like, they're not going to go for this. And they're like, oh, that's sick. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. So yeah, how much that was happening. Patty's development as a vocalist has just been astounding. Just the, just to this day, the stuff that he's sending through for this new like round of stuff. I mean, you could just sit down and just listen to these releases back to back, from the first EP to the second to this album, and just how hard that guy has been working and get really just striving to become just a proficient vocalist. Not just like, just a metalcore guy who's like, clean chorus, just heavy vocals for your verses and all that kind of stuff, but actually just trying to blend that whole palette together and just become, I think that investment in the art side of things is what's really cool about sort of the whole process. But yeah, I think that especially like me being less familiar with the metalcore scene and coming into it, that kind of openness that is kind of it's kind of been there has been awesome. So I guess so. I think in terms of things that like kind of they surprise me and they don't. It's like I always gets like caught off guard by the cool, like just, wow, I haven't heard you do X, Y, and Z, but I'm not surprised either, because they're just, because they're such excellent artists. So yeah, if that makes sense.
It is a really cool perspective hearing, I suppose, Paddy really honing in on his vocals, because quite often you hear, people will be like, oh, the first time I heard so-and-so, they just had it. And people do, but they still, really need to work on that quite a lot. And even this morning, I had a chat with Marcus from North Lane, and he was kind of saying how worried he was about fitness, getting back on stage and jumping around and not getting puffed. And it's those professional aspects that people wouldn't really think about in a big sense. And yeah, it's really cool to hear Paddy kind of working on that. And I'd be interested to see, that development in a live sense.
Yeah, it's you don't often get to see it, and and particularly like Marcus, is an interesting example, because North Lane were already a big established band, and and he basically entered well, I mean, like, even if you compare like what he's doing, what he did when he first joined the band, which is like still great. He's got a wonderful voice, but even like stuff on the single that they just dropped the other day, you can hear how much more detail and nuance is in his voice. So like, yeah, like that growth is kind of there, but I guess it's just kind of how closely people sort of pay attention to that. It's that attention to detail, really. I think it just happens to be a lot more stark with someone like Paddy, because it's just happened in such a short amount of time, and he's grown so much. So you kind of, and I think that it's also a product of the internet age as well, because you can just release their own stuff straight off the bat. So you do see a lot more of bands kind of just growing before your eyes. But I'm not really convinced at all that like you can get the impression that someone just had it, because you didn't see how much of a slog kind of led up to it. An album drops and you hear it, and it's just like, oh wow, that's amazing. You could sort of get this feel that like they just walked in and played and hit record, and it was like, bam, there it is. But you're not hearing the 20 songs that got rejected, and the 1,000 riffs, and the hours and hours of practice and lessons, and this, that, and the other, and the self-doubt scrutinizing to like to finally make it happen. But yeah, I think it's probably just one of those things that it helps to talk about, because like there was sort of a if whether or not he wants me to tell the story, but too bad. But there's, before I joined the band, like there was like very, very early show where Paddy didn't make it to the end of the show. It's like voice was gone, just from that sort of the lack of training. But to me, in my opinion, he's one of the best vocalists in the country, and a lot of people are now talk about him in that fashion, and I think that kind of stuff is inspirational and worth hearing.
Definitely. And it is something that happens. I mean, even they've got so many now that you can't just say the Parkway doco, but in the Parkway, the first Parkway doco, where they go to Europe and Winston's voice blows out from cigarettes, and just certain things that you wouldn't think about it. You get to Italy, deck of darts is $1, 100%. I'm going to go hammer on that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You need to play a show, and it does make it so hard.
Yeah, and like back home, where especially in Australia, like he's sort of doing a show. A tour might be you might not do more than 2 or 3 shows in a row, and like yeah, that was fine. And you go to Europe, and you might wind up having to do like 20 plus shows in a row, which is a whole completely different beast. And sometimes, yeah, it's just that school of hard knocks thing where it's just you just learn by doing. It's like oh shit, like this is a whole other thing, or you're on tour bus and now all of a sudden there's a cold going around, and so. And now you got to deal with that. So sometimes, I mean, the resources that are out there today are just insane. But a lot of the time, it is really just learning by doing, and just being ultra critical, and just having that drive to be like, how can we be better this gig than we were the previous gig, and yeah, and doing things like that.
And you kind of have the best opportunity, I suppose, to work on that with the Polaris tour coming up, which is massive. I mean, that lineup is so big. So to anyone who hasn't seen it, it's Mirrors, Polaris, Justice for the Damned, and Make Them Suffer. Insane. How are you feeling?
Yeah, pretty good. Like, I feel like I mean, it could just be me, but like I feel like the opening slot does take a lot of pressure off. Just in terms of the experience, that your stuff's already set up. You don't have that hectic changeover thing. So you got 10, 15 minutes, go, and then okay, now let's play and hope our shit works. So that takes a lot of pressure off. But in terms of the tour and the opportunity itself, like it's amazing. Like, venues that none of us have played before, I think, for the most part. Yeah.
Well, they're not really metal venues in a sense. Like they're kind of more so where you'd expect to see the Arctic Monkeys if they came out kind of thing. So
yeah.
Incredible.
Which is cool. Which just goes to show that like the the love and appreciation for this genre, that's out there. And now you're seeing like Northlings, Next Run, those venues are stepping up as well. Yep. So yeah, I think it helps that like we've got our regional tour in January as well. So that'll really help get the dust off. So and because be pretty full on tour, first tour back, just straight into that. But I think we're kind of just at a point where I think we have enough confidence in our abilities that we're just keen. Really, at this point, we're not sort of really too worried about like, oh, geez, we could just do our best and have fun with it, and and just tour with some sick dudes.
Definitely. And you guys will have hopefully the Ego's Weight will be out by then, so you guys will actually be able to unveil that material to some punters that may not have come across Mirrors before, which is
I guess that's one good thing is that well, among many, but that people who have never heard us before will get to hear the best of our work played to the best of our abilities. So there's that I think that aspect is exciting, just knowing that like because a lot of the shows that we sort of play, we know that a reasonable percentage of the crowd is going to be familiar with what we do. So doing this kind of thing where it's like cold calling, just kind of seeing how it lands when you just got this a enormous group of people probably just there to see Polaris, but and just kind of just seeing how that response works when it's just right, what do you got for us? So looking forward to that challenge.
I reckon it'll go really well for you guys. Like I wish you the best of luck with both that tour and the regional tour, but I'm one of the lucky few. I've heard the Ego's Weight. So I can really imagine some of that material going down awesomely live. And I reckon
it's good to hear.
We'll love it.
Oh, it's good to hear, especially now that it's finally, just having to sit on that thing, because it's something that we're really, really proud of. So, just the idea that people are starting to, even just here and there, starting to hear it is, it's refreshing. And I'm glad you enjoyed it, man. It's
So
Yeah.
when do you know when the release has been pushed back to?
Next Friday.
Oh, no shit. All right,
Yeah.
that's coming around sooner than I thought.
Yeah. Yeah. It's with which we teased the other day. Sounds like it's looking like we'll be dropping a little something beforehand as well. And yeah, so 100% next Friday is the day.
That so 7 days from now. That's
Yep.
so
November
exciting.
19th. Yeah.
Well, yeah, if you guys have tuned in late, because we've kind of run out of time a little bit here, but I've been with Rob from Mirrors. We're talking about The Ego's Weight, which is coming out next Friday. I only
Yep.
recently just found that out as well. But
November 19th, we timed that well.
it's a massive album, so definitely go check it out. If you're into metalcore, prog metal, just check it out, to be honest. But thank you so much for having a call, Rob. As I kind of said at the start, it's been a bit of a hassle with reschedules and stuff, so it's
Ah,
been a pleasure to actually sit down and have a chat.
cheers, man. Likewise.
Well, yeah, as I said, best of luck with everything, man, and I'll definitely be seeing you at the Melbourne Polaris show and the regional tour as well. I'll be sure to come out to that.
Ripper. Let's have a beer.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Well, I'll catch you then, but until then, yeah, best of luck with everything.
Thanks, brother. You too. Catch ya.
Catch ya. Just before we go, Rob, could I possibly get
Yeah,
a
man.
session ID of just, hey, this is Rob from
Okay.
Mirrors, and you're listening to The Faction?
Yep, sure thing.
Sweet as.
Hey, hey, this is Rob from Mirrors, and you're listening to The Faction.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rob. That was rad. And yeah, man,
That was
next
good.
Friday, dude. Best of luck with the release. That's going to be huge.
Oh, fucking hell. It's been too long.
No,
Ken has.
man, Resist is one of those labels that people will suss it because it's on Resist, like 100%. So I kind of feel like it's going to be a bigger release than you're gearing up for. Yeah.
I hope so, because you don't know. I mean, like I've been doing bands for like 20 years. So you just get used to, you just get to a point where you just go, I don't know what's going to happen, and just bracing for like, just getting lots of likes on Facebook for a week and then cool. So, maybe pick up a few, cool tools or something. So yeah, it just let it happen. But the response has been pretty sick so far. So just have to wait and see. But yeah, like obviously, Resist has a lot of cred and all that kind of stuff. But I think just the kind of machine that you have to support like a Parkway and a Polaris and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty obvious choice. So I think at the very least, people are going to be doing a good job behind it. So it's in God's hands.
And that's it. It's the ones that you don't expect that come back around. I mean, as you said, with sending the album to Resist, that was an email that you guys kind of sent. It was like, oh, who knows? And then there'll be other tours that you're positive that you'll get, you don't kind of thing. So yeah, it's always exactly as you said, who knows? But I feel it's kind of normally the opposite. If you gear yourself up and like, I don't know how it's going to go, it's going to go big. And then sometimes you speak to people that are ready for a massive release and it kind of doesn't happen as well. Unfortunately, with COVID and everything, it has been hard, but luckily being a Victorian band, stuff's opening, so you guys can actually get out there.
Yeah, that's true, and we have the ability to, start following up on it. So, yeah, I guess that's the thing with music. I think I've just, I've just what I've learned to do over time. Just kind of just sit back and, it's like I was saying, like if you just got to be happy within yourself and with the work you've done. Because if you just like, oh, I hope everyone likes this, then no one likes it, then you're fucked. Yeah. Like, so, and if everyone does love it, then you're just got to keep chasing that dragon. So without realizing that, like, if you're personally unsatisfied, then that's you just got to keep doing that. So I think I'm just very lucky to be working with guys who really give a shit about writing good music and doing good art and not really worrying too much about like, oh, is this going to land? Like, gives a fuck. So yeah. So we're getting together next Friday and just having brekkie and just being stoked that we actually got it out. When everything else can just happen on its own.
Yeah, as you should be. I hope you guys are drinking mimosas with that brekkie next Friday. That has to be a celebration for sure.
It's going to be a long day. It'll be a long day.
Yeah, 100%. Well, yeah, I will let you go, Rob. But yeah, thank you so much for having a chat, man. And
Glad we got it done.
I'll catch you at those shows, dude. 100%.
Look forward to it, man. See you then.
Awesome. I'll catch you then, dude. Enjoy your day.
See you, man.